Hello, welcome back to part two. We're starting at question 7 on the higher paper, 22 on the foundation. So Kuro invests 50,000 yen for 3 years in a savings account. She gets 2.4% per year compound interest. Work out how much money she'll have in her savings at the end of 3 years. So 50,000, and if we're going to increase that by 2.4%, it's 100% plus 2.4%, which gives us 102.4%. And then when we convert that to a decimal, it's 1.024. So 1.024 to the power of 3 is what we're going to multiply by because it's 3 years. So we would just be doing times by 1.024 times by 1.024 and repeating that process 3 times. We don't need to do it in the long way. We can just do it to the power of 3. Putting that into my calculator, and I get 53,687.0912. And then finally, to finish that off to the nearest yen, gives us 53687. Okay, question 8 or question 23 on the foundation. So the diagram shows a pentagon, a regular hexagon, and a quadrilateral. In fact, the pentagon is also regular. Work out the size of the angle marked X. Okay, so lots to do. First thing we need is the interior angles of those hexagons. In fact, we actually only need the exteriors. So 360 divided by 5. 360 divided by 5 gives me 72. So we've got 72 in there. 360 divided by 6. That's 60 into there. And then we need to know what this one is. Now that angle, if we look at it really carefully, you draw a line down, is the exterior of a pentagon and it's an exterior of a hexagon. So we just add those two together, 72 plus 60. Just add that there, 72 plus 60 is equal to 132. And then finally, all of those, 132 plus 60 plus 72, add them up, 264 is subtracted from 360, and that gives us 96. Okay, question 9. Find the highest common factor of A and B. So I spoke about this on the last video I did. From each of these two numbers, you take the lowest power of the numbers that we can see. So we've got 2 to the 8, 2 to the 6. We've got 3 to the 5 and a 3. Got 11 to the 4 and 11 to the 8. Change my colour of my pen. So that's the lowest, that's the lowest, that's the lowest. So 2 to the 6 times by 3 times by 11 to the 4 doesn't give us a format for the number. So I'm going to put this in my calculator and see how big the number is. 6 times by 3 times by 11 to the power of 4, 2811072. And we'll leave it like that. Okay, find the lowest common multiple of 2a and 3b. Now 2a means that's the thing multiplied by 2. So 2a is going to be 2 to the 9 times by 3 to the 5 times by 11 to the 4. And 3b is going to be b times by 3. So 2 to the, I need to write that properly, 2 to the 6 times by 3 squared times by 11 to the 8. Now it wants it as a product of its prime factors, which means we don't have to do a numerical calculation. And for LCM, we take the highest of each number. Now all of these are pairs. If we had like a 5 in there, we'd have to also take the 5. So 2 to the 9 times by 3 to the 5 times by 11 to the 8, and that would give us our lowest common multiple. Question 10, is this the last one? Yes, it is. The diagram shows one face of a wall. This face is in the shape of a pentagon with exactly one line of symmetry. I'm going to draw that on right now, down the middle. Why they've said that, I do not know. Amondi is going to paint this fence. or paint the face of, Amundi is going to paint this face of the wall once. He has to buy all the paint that he needs to use. The paint in each tin of paint Amundi is going to buy will cover 16 meters squared. Work out the least number of tins of paint. So let's work out the area, and then we need to see how many tins of paint we need. Draw across there, create a rectangle, and I've got a triangle. This isn't going to be easy. We'll call this area A. That's area B. So area A is just 6 times 10, which gives us 60. Now, some might be thinking, well, I can probably guess the answer from there, but you're not going to get full marks if you just guess. We've got a triangle, 10, 7, 7. But if I put a little symbol in there, you'll spot it's a right angle, and we can create a right angled triangle. And therefore, by finding x on that little diagram, we'll find the height, and we can then use that to find the area of the triangle. So 7 squared, take away 5 squared, because we've already got the hypotenuse, gives us 24. So square root of 24 is equal to x. We then need to do the square root of 24 times by 10. That's base times by height, or height times by base. And divide it by 2. That then gives us 120. That's a lovely number to work with. So 120 plus the 60 is 180. Let's just go back and check that those numbers are correct. 10 times by the square root of 24. It's not right. It's not right. Good. I'm glad I've checked my answer, because that 120 looks a bit big compared to the triangle. On my calculator, I haven't square rooted the 24. Now that's better. That makes 10 root 6. I wonder why that's third. And simplified, that gives me 24.49. That then gets added to the 60. So we get 84.49. 84.49, we then divide it by 16 to work out how many tins of paint we need. And that gives me 5.28. And be careful there, we're not rounding it down, because we won't have enough paint if we round it down. So that gives us 6 tins to work out. Okay, that's that paper over. Please take my advice, because it's the third paper I've done where I've worked on the crossover questions, and they just feel as though they're repeating themselves with the kind of questions. So the more of these you do, the better off you'll be in your exams. Good luck, and I'll see you at the next video.